Today is July 4th, and it's a holiday in America where they celebrate their independence. Now, this independence didn't fall down to all people, especially the black man and black woman of America, but this independence only came to the Caucasian people. Now, we talk about the freedom of the Caucasian people because they're the only one in this country that benefited from the American Revolution. Now, take it back to that time period. Black people were slaves July 4th, 1776. This country wouldn't even be a country today if it wouldn't be for the black man and black woman of America. Many of the same people that complain about black people not loving America, black people aren't really too patriotic, black people complain about this nation, but yet you were never educated about Crispus Attucks. Now, Crispus Attucks was a man that died for America first. Notice that the school don't really teach you about Crispus Attucks too much. A few of you may know who he is, but the majority really don't know anything about Crispus Attucks. Why? Because they will not give honor to a black man for even dying for this country. Now, notice that Crispus Attucks died for this country first. A black man's blood was shed first for this country. His rebellion, which we will talk about here in a second, sparked the American Revolution, but yet his face is not on any dollar bill. The start of the American Revolution was initiated on this day in 1770, which has come to be known as the Boston Massacre. The violence started that night when an angry crowd led by Crispus Attucks confronted a group of British soldiers, one of which was accused of striking a boy with the butt of his rifle. Panicked by the mob, the soldiers shot into the crowd, killing 5 people, the first of which was Attucks. Many historians cite this account as the start of the American Revolution, and Crispus Attucks, a black man, will forever be remembered as the first man to defy and the first man to die in America's fight for independence. Physically, Attucks, a runaway slave, was a big man, 47 years old, and clearly a man of courage and commanding presence. Inscribed on the monument in honor of Attucks in Boston Common are these words by John Adams: "On that night, the foundation of American independence was laid." So a black man fighting for America's freedom sparked the American Revolution. This man got no honor. His community gets no honor at all from America. It wouldn't be in America if it wouldn't be for a black man born of a African father and a Native American mother. So we seen that these brothers that was enslaved, once this American Revolution got started, they wanted to start fighting against the British. They didn't have enough people. So they started to look to the plantation fields, and they started to ask the slave owners, can we enlist slaves into the army to help fight the British? They went to the slaves and they told the slaves that, listen, if you help us fight, we'll give you your freedom. We're going to start a new country, and it's going to help free your people as well. The slave owners was promised the slaves enlistment bonus, so it's a win-win for him anyway. So imagine you being a slave on a plantation field. Day in and day out, you're made to work. You're being beaten. You're watching your family members be raped. Shoot, a man himself could be raped on a plantation. That was common practice in that time period. You look up and you see your family members on this plantation. You notice that, hey, if I have a chance for freedom, I'm going to go ahead and take it. I can do a few things with that. I can get back literally at the same people that has enslaved me and take out that frustration, not get lynched for it, and gain the freedom of not only myself, but my people. Sign me up. It'll be no different than if you went to prisons today And if Trump said, if you go do a tour in Afghanistan or Iraq, I'll let you go, a lot of prisoners would come out of prison and go take that deal just to get out of prison. So it's no different in that time period. These men that went fight was fighting for honor, fighting for freedom, and fighting for their people, period. Same thing on the British side. Escaped slaves would want to go fight with the British because they want to help liberate their people. And they promised them the same thing, freedom, if they helped them win against the Americans. So these brothers that was in the American Revolutionary War, these brothers were brave brothers. They had black regiments. One called the Black Battalion out of Rhode Island. You had another one called the Ethiopian Regiment. Now, these black battalions were led by a white commander, but nevertheless, they had the black regiments. So in this war that America won, if it wouldn't been for those estimated 5,000 to 8,000 black soldiers, America would not be here today at all. But yet those brothers get no honor from America for helping them fight for Caucasian independence, because the black man didn't get his independence that day. So those soldiers that fought, yes, they did get their freedom, but their people did not get free. They didn't get rid of slavery at all. And we know the Emancipation Proclamation was not signed until January 1st, 1863. And it did not really get down to the last slave until June 19th, 1865. This is why most of us that are conscious minded to history, we say June 19th or Juneteenth is the day that we celebrate independence. We don't celebrate July 4th at all because we were still slaves on the plantation field. Now, after that our so-called freedom, we were still put in slavery once again, truly not free. Now, we know the 13th Amendment says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Number 2, Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So, yes, slavery ended with the 13th Amendment. Private slavery did, but it was transferred over to state-run slavery. So slavery has never ended. Our freedom has never came in the United States of America. Only thing that we have received is an illusion of freedom, but not true freedom. America has never operated without slavery. As you can see here, that's chattel slavery, which is the first phase. Let's say the second phase, the convict lease program. And then the third phase is the industrial prison complex, prisons for profit. Now, as you can see, what it tells us here, America is addicted and dependent upon forced slave labor. Never has there been a time in American history where she has existed without slavery, free labor. And that's the history of this nation. That slavery clause just continued. We can go back and start on phase 2, which was the convict lease program. After slavery, after we was so-called freed from those chains, those plantation owners got a welfare from the American government, $300 a slave that they lost. They wasn't just lost out when they lost the slaves, but they still had their plantations that needed to be ran. So they end up creating what is called the Black Codes. The Black Codes were laws that were passed right after the time period that black people got free of the chains of slavery between 1865 and 1866, were to restrict the movement of black people and criminalize black people and put them in jail. Because after slavery, we was given a new name, criminal, because the word criminal was used to enslave black people again. Because remember, the 13th Amendment allows slavery under the guise of crime and punishment. So you label the black man and the black woman criminals. They put these black people in jail for any little reason, vagrancy, not having a job, etc., created a program called the convict lease program. So these plantation owners or other business owners say, hey, I need about 30 of them to work for me. They will give 30 prisoners to this business owner or plantation owner. And here we go again. Slavery underneath another name. The conditions were hard. The conditions a lot of times were worse than they were when they was on the plantation. And a lot of those brothers died. Even children was a part of the convict lease program. But black people have never seen a freedom in this country as of yet. But Caucasians got theirs July 4th, 1776, which is the day they honor and revere their freedom. You look at things today, and I know some of you will say, well, that's not true, because look at the strides of a lot of black people in America. Look at Martin Luther King. Look what he has accomplished. Integration didn't cost America a thing. When Martin Luther King wanted a stimulus package for the Poor People's Campaign, right after that, he was killed for pushing for that, because that was going to cost America something. Anything involving black people, unless it benefits Caucasian society, is not going to fly. Integration benefited Caucasian society more than black society, because prior to integration, black people couldn't shop at Macy's and J.C. Penney and all these other stores we got now. They had to shop at their own stores. They couldn't get the black dollar at that time period. Integration allowed them to get the black dollar, even though putting blacks and Caucasians together was very volatile at that time period and very violent. But they made a lot of money off of black people, and especially our self-hatred to feel that the Caucasian man's ice is colder than the black man's ice. Some of you may say, well, you had a civil rights bill. Yeah, a civil rights bill that you have to vote on every 30 years. Why do you have to vote on the civil rights bill for black people every 30 years? A free people don't need a civil rights bill. Caucasians don't need a civil rights bill to be voted on, right? Because they're truly free in America. Black people have an illusion of freedom in America. I know some of you may say, well, what about the Voting Rights Act? You needed a Voting Rights Act just for black people to vote. Caucasians never needed that. Why? Because they are truly free. Black people are not. You have an illusion of freedom. I know some of you may say, well, look at these basketball players, the NFL players. Look all the money they're making. You mean to tell me they're not free? No, they're not. If they speak up for black people, they're chastised. They're kicked out of the NFL. They're blackballed. If they stand up about police brutality under free speech, they're ridiculed. They're called thug and all kind of other words they're called. And then look at these contracts. Who they really benefit? Stephen Curry just got a $201 million deal with Golden State. But promise you this, the Caucasian owners is going to make a lot more money off of Stephen Curry than they're paying him. So it's okay to pay a black man that much money if you're benefiting in the billions off of that black man. What freedom do black people really have in America when we're watching people like Philando Castile being gunned down with impunity, with a seatbelt on, with a legal carry firearm, and the majority of a lot of people that are Caucasian agreed that the police should have got off? Do a people that's truly free notice their countrymen feeling it's okay to murder them? Look how many times that we have seen police officers beating down black people. How are we free? We look at Rodney King and the LA riots.
Get off the street, drive away. You'll be subject to arrest.
The predominantly black South Central part of Los Angeles was neglected, plagued with unemployment, poverty, and suffering through the crack epidemic.
We look at the current riots that we all have seen and experienced.
This is one of our darkest days.
How is that we are truly free? And notice these riots have always started not because their favorite sports team won or lost, but it started off of injustice. It started off of being brutal to black people. And once again, this nation not honoring and respecting black people at all. Now, yes, we know about the Dred Scott decision that stated black people don't have any rights that a white man has to respect. But allegedly, the 14th Amendment overrode that decision. But did it really override that decision? In America, no matter what you do, even if you become a president, you are still considered an N-word in this country. Even Jay-Z had alluded to that in his new song called The Story of OJ, which I actually like that song very much. And he said a lot of things I've said on this channel. But black people aren't even free today. This is why we have to assess a lot of things to say, well, since we're not free, we don't need to fight any more wars. Since we're not free, we don't need to contribute like we used to contribute to anything. Because everything we have contributed, we fought in every war this nation has had, and yet there's no respect. Remember, brothers were coming back from World War II getting lynched in their uniforms, fighting for this nation and still being lynched. Why would we fight for anyone that's lynching us? Now the lynchings are through police badges. Even the Klansmen told Elijah Muhammad that they're going to get out of the robes and put on police badges, judges' robes, and DA suits. And they did that. Even the FBI has confirmed that Caucasian supremacist groups, terrorist groups, have infiltrated law enforcement. So how are we truly free as black people? We have the illusion. Or the illusion that you could date a white woman or date a white man. Is that freedom? No. The only reason that happened because a Caucasian male is being deprived of something and he feels that he shouldn't be deprived of anything. So that's why that law got passed. It wasn't to benefit the black man or black woman of America to pass that law. So understand something. As black people, we shouldn't celebrate July 4th because we're not free. Until we get true freedom as countrymen and true freedom as the first people who died for this nation. It wouldn't be in America. It wouldn't be for the black man and black woman. The richness of America wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be for your work that came through slavery of 246 years. These people owe us a lot. Yes, they do. Because they wouldn't be where they at. It wouldn't be for black people. Sure, they're getting mad or whatever, but they can't refute it because history will not allow them to refute this. This is why they hide this when educating you all, and not just black people, but even other Caucasians and other groups. They indoctrinate our kids with misinformation into a Caucasian supremacist system. They don't teach them the truth about anything. Once you get educated on history, once you get knowledge, you have to make changes. You can't go back to closing your eyes. If any black person celebrates July 4th after this day, then something's really wrong with you. Because it's no way that you should celebrate something and you've never truly been free.